Okay. I think... let's see. My camera's doing that thing again. There we go. Boom, perfect. Oh, that fixed a lot easier than last time. Sorry, I know that sounds not great. Okay. Leave that there, put that there, and beautiful. Okay, I rewound it just a little bit. Because I know the last time I talked to Sfax in a bunch. Hey, Elk. I guess you tell me. I assume you're talking about my sound. Oh, yeah. There we go. Cool. Let's see here. Oh, YouTube's muted.
I hate that about pro-choice people.
Cool.
Oh, well, why? Isn't that just what you said, but like you...
Okay, I'm rewinding.
I just think it makes the... I guess you probably won't fall into this. Well, I don't know. I guess we'll see. But it makes a debate more
cool. Thank you.
Complicated when one person feels that the other person is going to go out and encourage and or commit rape if they lose the argument.
I guess it's kind of like I'm trying to think of a comparison. It's like when somebody is...
It's an excellent the better debate tactic would be to convince them that you're going to go out and do those things if you don't win the debate. Actually, that's not my computer fan. That's actually like a gigantic metal fan that I have. Yeah, that's the downside to taking off the noise gate.
It's pro...
Thank you for telling me.
When somebody's like pro-life or anti-abortion, and the other person is like pro-abortion or pro-choice, like the pro-life person feels an extra compulsion there to like, I need to change your mind. And the pro-choice person is like, well, you can do whatever you want, it's cool. But the pro-life person is like, well, okay, well, it's not cool.
Yeah, and I hate that. Because...
Well, of course you would, because you're on the other side that's not doing the moral compulsion. But I think it's valid for the other person to be like, I really want to...
No. I hate that about pro-choice people.
Oh, well, why? Isn't that just what you said, but like you want to be those people?
Because I think it should be acknowledged. I think that's what I'm trying to do for you. Like in this case, I am the pro-choice person and you're the pro-life person.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think that the outset of any abortion disagreement, it should be acknowledged that the pro-life people think you're killing a baby.
Sure.
And like your premise is different, but I think it should be acknowledged like they have a right to be upset if that's what they think is happening. But the conversation always starts with what...
Just a hot take. I think that you probably are killing a baby when you have an abortion, but like I'm cool with you doing it. I don't care. I couldn't care less.
I do with my body has nothing to do with you, and it's like that is
a little
not
silly.
What they think.
Yeah,
it's very silly, and it's unfair. And I think that if people could emotionally empathize with what it's like to believe that like half of the country wants to actually murder babies, I feel like the conversation would be a lot more productive.
For sure.
I don't want to do it.
Okay, so...
But I'm cool with it.
I guess... So, that's a good first question. How upsetting do you find my stance?
I mean, I think it falls in line with a lot of contemporary cultural thought. So, I mean, it's not that upsetting. It's
oh, yeah.
just, I disagree.
It is a rare quality for somebody to be able to get one past Destiny like that to shock them. I think that was one of the things that Destiny really liked about him, is that he couldn't really predict what was going to happen.
Agree with it, but
okay, but you don't feel like I'm killing babies.
No, I'm not at that level of anger, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. 1 out of 10. What level of anger are you at?
I don't know, probably like a 2 or a 3 or 4, maybe up to a 4.
Okay.
But maybe if I watched the
wouldn't-
original video, maybe it would move me a little bit up or down. I don't know.
Yeah, probably up.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So, do you want me to? Who? I feel like you like going second, but do you want to go first?
I can do whatever you want. I like essentially the problem that I had was, and might be a problem that we come up to a lot because it seems like
Okay.
I agree with like 95% of what you say, but then you'll take it one step over what I think is defensible. So
Oh, this is like, I'm remembering now. This is like the classic. Mr. Girl Destiny video. I remember this little bit here a lot, where Destiny's just like, you just say things the worst fucking way possible.
Okay.
I think that there is a lot of unwritten, non-verbalized negotiation that goes along with consenting to sexual activity.
Yes.
But when you get to the point where somebody is actually saying no to you, I think that it takes a lot to overcome that.
Okay.
More than just like a look in the eyes.
Okay. So you're saying that mixed messages happen, but that a mixed message when the no message is verbal and the yes message is nonverbal, should always be a full stop.
I think that you err on the side of caution for 2 reasons.
Or you're saying it should take an enormous amount of.
Yeah. So like for an example, like there was okay, I won't say it. There's a girl that I used to date for 4 years and I had a child with. I won't say who it is, okay? But she has a thing where she would almost sometimes like reject me or say no, but she would always want me to push more, and she would complain about it sometimes the next day, and she would do that a lot. And eventually I kind of learned like, but that was in the course of like, we're in a long-term relationship and I have a really
Yes.
good feel for what's going on, and I know the kind of
Well,
person
she explicitly told you.
Yes, and I know that if she really didn't want something to happen, that she could beat the shit out of me. Like we're good on that. But on a first time with somebody, there's so much that I don't know that I would always err on the side of caution rather than, I want to find a different word for this conversation because I don't want to taint it a certain way. But like I would err on the side of caution rather than like accidentally rape somebody. Is what I would say. But that's a really loaded phrase, so you're already starting on a really bad.
I say this. I think this kind of stuff has Napoleon small guy energy. This kind of stuff's pretty easily avoidable if you have like, if the person that you haven't met up with yet is super open about talking. I think I almost exclusively talk to people about their like their kinks and stuff ahead of time. Like that's usually one of the first topics that comes up because it lets women know that you're interested in them, and I find more often than not women really like talking about that stuff, and then you don't have to like really run into these kinds of things. Although I would basically never ever do like anything like CNC adjacent, even like the first time I meet somebody.
I have to
freaked me out.
change the title of the stream now to Mr. Girl and Destiny debate accidental rape. Wait, can I have rape in the title of the stream?
Probably not.
Okay. Okay, I'll just leave it consent then.
Okay, that's
Never
probably good. Yeah.
Okay. You're helping me. Okay. Okay, so you acknowledge that any of those times with your ex, despite giving, okay, do we agree that somebody being able to beat you up or leave the room or call the police or whatever?
Oh, you definitely should. Like depending on like, I don't know. I'm just assuming that everybody uses dating apps. If it's something like that's more drawn to like kinky stuff, then you can just like pretty much bring it up right away. Otherwise, like I'd say like within the first like 5 minutes of messaging, if it's like Tinder or something like that, it's probably a pretty good idea. You just say like, so what kind of stuff are you into? like winky face or something, and then like just go from there, because I think that, at least for me, if I don't say something like that's super overt because I'm trying to be polite, then they'll just think that I'm not interested. And then also too, then it gets that shit all out on the table. And if you plan on having sex with somebody, you might as well make sure that you're compatible ahead of time anyways.
And not doing that, that doesn't mean that you didn't rape them.
Correct.
So that can't be the safe word.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
And you didn't actually have a safe word.
I was probably too immature at the time. No, not really, no.
Okay. So
Very
do we
pro-safe
agree that despite her telling you in advance, I hereby consent to all sex, unless I make it really clear somehow, that consent does not actually cover everything. That's why it has to be enthusiastic, continuous enthusiastic consent. That's why like consent advocates prefer that.
Sure, maybe.
Okay, so there is some chance of accidental rape in what you were doing, but a much, much lower chance than on the first date, like what I did.
Yeah, I would agree. So like for an example that I've given before for why sometimes verbally checking is good, I'll give an example of me accidentally raping someone. We need a new phrase for this. But it's hard to tell.
That actually was
You think it's a good one? Sometimes when when you're sexually interacting with somebody for the first time, it's really hard to tell the difference between what feels good and what feels bad, because I think the noises are the exact same. When somebody's like, oh, yeah, and like it could be like, oh no, why'd you?
He says that, but I've never really run into that where I have a hard time telling that. That's one of the weirdest things I've heard Destiny say. Like, I can imagine it, certainly, but I don't know.
Stop! Or it could be
It's
like...
not bad
right.
advice. It's just weird
and I remember
to
there
hear.
was a girl that I was making out with, and I was fingering her for a little bit, and I thought that she was kissing me back, and I was good. I thought she was like kind of into it, and then I kind of... There's like feelings that you get, like if in the vagina or whatever, and I'm like, okay, I can't tell. And I ended up asking her, I was like, is this okay? Like, do you feel okay? And she's like, no, actually, for like the last 5 minutes, this has been really uncomfortable. And I was like, oh. So then I stopped.
See, that's her fault.
Oh, okay, hold on, chill.
That's her fault.
I agree.
Kind of, but kind of not. So
Sure.
the difficulty, I think, in navigating these situations is that there's so much at play emotionally when it comes to a sexual interaction that I don't always think that people are in the right state of mind. And I think that inhibits somebody's ability, almost like a drug, to navigate those things in the best manner.
Absolutely.
So like, I'm really boring. I'm very forward when it comes to all of this. Before I fuck anybody, I usually like to have had explicit conversations over what's on the table or what's not on the table, because I know that here's like a really common thing, okay? I don't like, sometimes talking about this feels weird because it feels like a rape guide, basically. I don't mean it to sound that way, but for any girl that says that she needs a condom to fuck, for a lot of these people in the heat of the moment, you could like, I want to come in now, like, do you want me to get the condom or do you want me to just fuck you? A lot of them are like, just fuck me. Like a lot of them will do that. Even though that's not really what they want. And afterwards, they're going to feel bad about it. And beforehand, they said they didn't want to do it. But in the heat of the moment, you can get people to do a lot of things that they wouldn't necessarily otherwise. And I think that capitalizing on that or not being aware of that, I think is a bad thing sometimes, which is why, yeah. Okay, go ahead.
So you're saying a temporary...
It is kind of funny, knowing the whole Anna thing with the condom and hearing him say that.
horniness-induced inebriation.
Sure.
Where people can be talked into things even though they just said they wouldn't want to.
Yeah, they wouldn't necessarily. Yeah. When you're horny, I think you can get into a lot of dumb shit like that. Yeah.
So you're saying a horny woman can't consent?
I mean, I wouldn't.
In a way.
I wouldn't make
You're
it.
saying you got to check the temperature before horny and during horny. Compare them if they're the same.
Yeah, I wouldn't make it
that.
that black and white. I'm just saying I would always err on the side of caution here.
Yeah.
So like for like a horny woman can't consent, I would say that like unless I know the person really well, I would be really nervous about them introducing new things while they're horny, because I don't know if they feel okay.
Yeah, well, I think that he probably is, and probably would even say that he is. It definitely seems like he's talking about his own experiences. Like,
Okay with that or not.
that he's like open that he is, but maybe I'm wrong.
Right, when they're like, just punch me in the fucking face.
Sure.
Okay. So do you, wait, but you're kind of changing the subject when you're talking about advising caution. as if I'm not advising caution. Are we talking about the advice portion of like how
Well,
to actually implement our different worldviews? 'Cause
when I
feel like-
say advising caution, I'm very much in the world of like reading body signals and checking in everything. Whereas you were doing it way past that, where you're like, well, even if she says no, I'm going to go in because I think I can read past that, which I think is a way bigger step forward than what I'm talking about.
it's an advanced maneuver.
Is one way to call it. It was a very advanced maneuver.
I mean, it worked.
Yeah, but I mean, like, so do drugs or suffocation or physical abuse, or there's a lot of things that work, right?
No, I mean, it worked in the sense that, she was like, that was nice. Let's hang out again. I like you, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, but I think
it worked in any measurable sense. It was no different from if that I hadn't done that.
Yeah, but I think we have to do this as like a numbers game. Like, it might work sometimes, but
I think we should slow down.
my bad. Okay,
I'm giving the yellow light.
gotcha. Okay, understood. We're not stopping.
Do you
want to
talk?
Yeah, chill right here. Okay.
Do you want to talk about the practical applications of this, or do you want to get into like definitions of like what is rape? What is consent? How do we know when a rape happened?
What is
Well, this is actually like is super good. I don't want to say debate tactic. This is like a super good like debate management by mrgirl, because they're kind of like going into both at the same time, which can get messy. He's like still super green in this. I think some of that stuff got lost later on.
rape is actually a really boring semantic thing for me. I don't really care that much. It's I think that everybody's, especially if you're a teenager and you're getting, I think everybody's raped somebody at one point in time. That might sound really controversial, but like all of the early teenage like messing around is like doing everything you can to convince the girl to fuck you, and oftentimes people are fucking drinking, and there's a what. So like I'm not really as concerned over like what is rape defining. I'm more like what are responsible sexual practices that we can engage in, and then what should we try to avoid. I'm not as concerned about labeling things as like rape or sexual assault. It's just not something.
Well, I think my problem with that is I would be interested in getting into that with you, but
if you want to, sure.
I do, because I mean, what you just suggested to me is that maybe we need a moving definition of rape. So if you have a 50-year-old who's behaving like a 15-year-old, that might be rape. I think that's a really good point that you just raised, because like a 15-year-old, fumbling around and ripping your bra off and blah blah blah, like. Yeah, you're right. It's not that unusual, but a much older person acting like that, then it's like
exactly the same.
Oh yeah, my game's gonna pop up over the screen. I'm gonna play TFT while I listen to this. So I'm just gonna have to move it.
Behavior, right? If you've got a 15-year-old begging another 15-year-old, like they both get drunk, they're underage, like please, can I have sex? Please, can we just do this? Like let me just do this.
Normal, right?
Kind of, yeah. But like a 30-year-old doing that to a 20-year-old, even. This is like really wrong now. Like you're fucking up like really hard. But maybe not actually. What if it's the first time they've ever gotten a girl naked, right? So it's a very hard thing, right? What if it's a 30-year-old virgin and a 20-year-old with lots of experience, and the 30-year-old is pushing for it, and the 20-year-old knows that? Like, it's such a complicated thing. The problem with the word rape is rape brings in with it a lot of moral condemnation, and we instantly think of in an alley, two guys violently sexually raping a girl. That's like the thought that comes up, rather than I got a girl kind of drunk and we were both underage and I finally.
It's kind of weird that that's almost never the context in which I hear it now. Actually, every single time I hear somebody say the word rape, there's always, like, in my mind, I'm like, oh, I wonder what they mean by that. I have absolutely no clue when people say that, what they're actually talking about. Until, like, I get the further explanation.
Got to fuck her, and like you probably shouldn't do that, but you're both teens, you're both dumb. It's not acceptable, you shouldn't do it, but there's a way different level of moral condemnation that should exist there, and people oftentimes lose that. But that's why I'm not too concerned about like arguing over the word itself. We can if you want, but
I want to, because
I'm saying rape is on a spectrum.
I'm so glad you said that, because I was gonna say, like pedophilia, for me, the point of my consent is complicated video. So this is why I call it consent is complicated.
Sure.
Is that I think all sex involves some element of rape.
Okay.
That you can look at any sex act and find some element of coercion and or self-coercion so
Okay, now
that
I gotta
some
move
part
this.
of you is doing something it doesn't want to.
So
Or some
this is
part of you
where-
knows the other
Yeah,
other
we're
person
gonna-
has
I gotta mute it.
ambivalence.
We're gonna disagree over like what coercion means, I guess, or something. Then, like, what do you mean when you say that? I guess this is
What? I
this.
just
Just
mean-
before we
I
start
mean-
this, I'm making a prediction here. I think that we probably 100% agree on every single thing you're about to say, but I feel like you're about to say it in the most unbelievably edgy way possible, using the worst words possible. So we're gonna argue over it, but we'll see. Okay, let's go.
I'm glad you think so highly of me. No, what I mean by coercion is, say that your girlfriend has not given you a blowjob, even though she knows you really like blowjobs. She hasn't given you one in like 2 months.
Okay.
And she's also been telling you that you should clean out the garage. And then you do it, and then she gives you a blowjob that day. I feel like, for me, if that happened to me, some part of me, I guess that's not a good example of coercion, but some part of me would be feeling like, is this just happening because I cleaned out the garage? And I would feel like that's kind of gross, and like I kind of don't like this, but I do like it, and I'm gonna let it happen anyway, even though some part of me, and I might even say like, hey, this is freaking me out. Are you just doing this? And then but like they don't know, and I just feel like because there's an existing relationship, or say someone you don't know, and then you take them on a date, and then they look at the menu, and you get to the place, and then all the entrees are like $80, and they've never been to a really fancy restaurant before, and then they feel obligated to have sex with you because you just bought them like a $300 dinner or something. I feel like that kind of thing could feel coercive to the person, even if it's not intended.
Sure.
And I think that you can always, in any sex act, I think you can always find something that is on a spectrum from, in an alley to a gun to your head, or, I just bought you an expensive meal at a place that you've never been to,
Yeah.
and then kind of insisted on driving you home. Like you were giving the
I think
example
that these things can happen, but my question is like, it's not always this, right? Like, what if you just have like two people, they enjoy fucking, it was like, hey, do you want to come over and like watch Netflix and fuck tonight or whatever? Like, yeah, sure, and then come over. Like, where is the coercive aspect there?
I just think it's never that simple. I feel like
What about people in like long-term relationship? Wait, no. What do you mean it's never that simple? Or explain.
a hookup or a long-term relationship.
Either one. You can have like casual hookups, no?
I don't think so. I think that falls apart quickly, and it becomes something other than a casual hookup if it keeps going on.
Yep, I mean, it might at some point become more than casual hookup, but then we'll just
I
switch
think it
gears.
inevitably does. I don't think you can have a casual hookup. I don't think there's a certain number of times you can have sex with somebody before you are emotionally entwined with them. It's kind of like debating on Twitch. After a certain number, it no longer becomes casual.
Yeah, maybe.
I've talked about this quite a bit. I think that it's a lot easier for men than women for it to just like be a super casual thing. I don't know if that's just how we sort of like train them to engage with sex though, like, or think about it. Like from the time that they start thinking about it though, I think it probably has a good deal to do with that. I don't think it's like a biological thing so much.
I don't think this is important to this, but so then we'll say then even within the context of like a relationship then, what like do you think every single like there can't be a time when like a boyfriend or girlfriend like, hey, like we should fuck tonight, like, oh yeah, cool, and then they do it, and that's just like enjoyable, that there's never a mutual meeting of the minds there?
No, I'm not saying there isn't. I'm saying that even the most ideal sex still has some element of coercion.
Well, what would the element of coercion be there then?
That one of you feels obligated to, or it's a routine, it's date night, or it's Valentine's Day, and it's like even the fact that you might not know why you're doing what you're doing, I think necessarily means that there's some confusion about whether you even want to do it. I don't think that there's ever a time where we are. I think we can compartmentalize, and I don't think it's necessary to deeply investigate, like, I really want to have sex, but let me stop and think, like, is there any part of me that doesn't want to have sex, or does any part of me feel pressured into this or forced into this?
Well, I think it's pretty important.
There's not really a reason to do that.
I think there is a reason, because if we're saying that like everything is coercive, then nothing is coercive. Because with the definition,
I'm saying it's a spectrum, just like you said. I'm saying all sex is rape to a certain degree.
Well, yeah, but like this spectrum becomes so like pointless that like I can define.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I think it's probably like the. It's a lot more nurture than nature.
Do you agree to this? I can define every single action we do as life as having some aspect of coercion to it then. No? Like literally everything.
Yeah.
So my only issue there then is I feel like there's not much utility to that definition because...
That's not my definition. I'm saying the definition is a point on the spectrum that we decide is rape. Not the presence of coercion, but how much coercion. Kind of like pedophilia. It's not, are you attracted to 3-year-olds? It's how much.
Okay. I
really, really like Destiny's face right there. I think that one just really embodied what he said earlier. It's like, it's not, like, I agree with what you say, but I just hate how you say it.
I think I agree 100%. I just calling it all coercion just seems really reductive. But I'll probably agree. Sure, for a second.
I don't mean to call it coercion. I think there's an element of affection, an element of pleasure, and an element of consent and happiness to all sex acts too. It's just where is the slider?
Sure. Yeah, I don't think I necessarily disagree.
Like you can enjoy being raped, and that doesn't mean it's not rape. And you can hate having consensual sex, and that doesn't mean it wasn't consensual. It's just a confusing mess.
Sure. And I wouldn't say it's a confusing mess, but it can be confusing. There's a lot of nuance, okay? But yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so I feel like the only way to define these things is to we can have your own personal preference for like if I think you're giving me a blowjob because I cleaned out the garage, I don't want it. I don't want it. And then other people would say like, yeah, go down on me. Sure, I earned it. Fuck you.
Okay.
I made you dinner. Suck it. And they're fine with that.
Okay.
And I think for every, or like, oh yeah, like if you buy me a nice enough dinner, then yeah, I'll have.
I probably had quite a reaction to that the first time I seen it.
Sex with you. I think that everybody has their own personal guide.
There was something about seeing Mr. Girl for the first time where it was sort of like in the back of my head, like I've talked about this before for sure. Like I listened to his music with like earbuds in, and I was at like a grocery store, and it was like the first time I was listening to it. And I think I was listening to I Can Fantasize About Whatever I Want. And I suddenly got, like, really nervous that somebody, like, near me might hear what I was listening to and be like, what the fuck? So I probably had a similar reaction then.
For when they feel like they've been violated?
Mm-hmm. Sure. I don't think I disagree. I'll hand with anything you're saying.
And when they feel like they violated somebody else, and then we need a kind of objective legal definition of like, because you can't decide you've legally been raped. Other people do that. So then we have like a societal norm definition and like a legal definition.
Okay, gotcha.
But I guess my only point in all this is to say that I agree with you that there's also an element of consent in all rape too. The same spectrum applies much more disturbingly.
Yeah, I mean, again, I would never use these words. But you say, why didn't you fight them off, or why didn't you try to? Yeah, sure, I understand what you're saying. Yeah,
like, unless you died.
Yeah, getting raped, then you consented to some extent. I understand what you're saying. Socially, your words are impossible. You're not going to get anybody to agree with you.
Except you, and that's why I'm here.
Sure. Logically, I can follow you, but in terms of how language is used, we're in pretty weird, uncharted territory. Or the issue, I guess, that I have here is, can I mirror our favorite mutual friend, Vaush?
Yeah.
So Vaush attacks capitalism because he says many lefties will do this. They'll say that.
Wait. Are you making an argument about consent or about talking about this? How to talk about this?
About coercion.
Okay.
Some lefties will say everything in a capitalist society is coercive. And I mean, well, what do you mean when you say that? It's like, well, if you don't work, you'll starve. Well, and it's like, okay, well, what do you, like, what do you mean? Well, like, if you don't work, okay, you're forced to work. Well, not for a specific company, sure, but for any company, you have to work, otherwise you're going to die. And it's like, okay, well, if you have to voluntarily work at any number of places to get a paycheck to voluntarily buy and choose what you need in society, like, is that really coercion? At that point, isn't everything coercion? Like your mom and dad talking to you?
You have to eat, if you don't eat, you'll starve too. Like you have to go to the kitchen to...
So my issue usually when people like Vosh bring out that definition, or any leftists in general, I'll usually say, when you use the word coercive here, what you're trying to do, and I understand you're not trying to do this, but what you're trying to do is you're trying to smuggle in all of the moral condemnation of the word coercion, but then you've watered down what it actually is such that I don't actually give a fuck about it. There might be some forms of coercion that are not only like neutral, they're morally good. Maybe it's good when a parent coerces a child into doing their homework, right? But but the way that we use words like coercion usually they carry with it kind of this malintent behind it, and when we try to divorce those two things, the conversation becomes unfollowable to the vast majority of people, except for anybody else that's like engaged in our like intellectual masturbation here about coercion. It's kind of like saying like manipulation is just when you change somebody's mind about things. So a teacher manipulates a child to believe that 2 + 2 = 4. It's like, well, I mean, if we call that,
that's true. That's true.
Well, but no, because like manipulation,
I like that.
I don't like that because it makes,
I love it.
The problem then is that every negotiation is coercion. Every form of conversation is manipulation. Like we take these words that are generally reserved.
I understand what Destiny's saying, but I probably do normally use these words this way.
To imply a double meaning or imply something secondary. And now we've like stripped all of that nuance from the language, and now we're just saying, well, everything.
Or at least if I'm bringing it up like that, it's going to be obvious what I mean.
Apply something secondary, and now we've like stripped all of that nuance from the language, and now we're just saying, well, everything is this and everything's that, and then I think it kind of makes these words boring or useless is my problem.
Because you think the audience will not be receptive to it,
and because we like those words no longer have.
But what if
meaning.
it was just you and me? If we were just like, you know, if we were having lunch.
If it was just you and me were having lunch, every time you do this, I would say, why are you so autistic about how you use words? You're pissing me off. I think that's what I would say. Because the issue is that we no longer...
But then I would answer.
Uh-huh.
And the answer is, I think there are certain ideas and acknowledgments about the nature of sex. Something that's so nuanced and multifaceted, and like we have so much ambivalence about it that we can't get to unless we use words the way that I'm trying to use them. Or we write a very long, very, very long academic paper, which I don't want to do. I
would just say that you're just completely wrong. I think that we can have words like coercion.
I don't agree with Mr. Girl there, but I understand.
And
I just refer to my previous
mean the
point.
Things they do for the reasons they do. And then when we talk about something like sex, it's like consent is very, very, very complicated.
See, I think if you say to somebody, there's some element of consent in all rape. To some people, that's very offensive and upsetting.
To the vast majority of people.
Most people.
I don't think so. I think to people who have been raped, who see the messaging being, if you were raped, it's not your fault at all. You did nothing wrong. You are a complete victim.
But you're saying you're saying it's kind of your fault because you were raped and you didn't die, right?
Yeah.
So like it's your fault on a spectrum, but very low on the spectrum. Yeah.
Don't set me up. Let me explain. Because I have to say yes to that, but I don't want to.
Were you saying I coerced you into that answer?
Kind of. Because you're saying you're making fun of me for being edgy, but then you're saying that I have to say something edgy or I have to pussy out, and you know what?
Well, I'm not trying to make you say something edgy. I'm just showing you that like or go ahead, finish your thing before you. Yeah.
I think that some people who have been raped, especially with the unnuanced way we talk about it, or I would even say a lot of people who have been raped, have to compartmentalize their feelings that it was their fault, because other people can't accept that. And they can't handle it. And so I think they end up telling themselves and telling other people, I'm a victim, I'm a survivor, I'm not even a victim, I'm a survivor. And all these euphemisms and basically taking the part of themselves that knows that they might have been able to stop it and didn't. And just crushing it. And I want to talk about it in a way that tells those people that just because you didn't stop it, that doesn't make it not rape. Just because it was partly your fault, if that's what you believe, that might be true, and that doesn't matter. That doesn't make it not rape. It matters. It matters in terms of how you process it and how you think about it. I don't think telling people who feel guilt or shame that their guilt and shame is for no reason and that it's detached from reality and that, you know, they should just adopt. It's a political stance.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, most of the women that I know that have gone through that, like not even just internally, like externally, will feel like it's their fault. I know some that have just feel like it's their fault entirely. And obviously, it's not. Like I wouldn't say it's their fault, but like what Mr. Girl is saying is like super accurate. I think that there is some probably some value if you can approach it the right way into like sort of being there for those feelings, whereas everybody else is just going to shut it out so they can't really process that part of it. Yeah.
I agree with what you're saying. I think you can.
Okay.
I think you can accomplish all of that without trying to use these words this way. I think all of that is well within our reach, because we whether we know it or not, when we use a word like consent or coercion, we're not actually talking about did somebody do something. That's not really what we're talking about. What we're really talking about is we're getting at this idea. It's a more intuitive concept called agency. That's really what we're getting at. When you say something like, did you consent to this thing? What we're really asking is, if you were a free agent able to make a decision without any external pressure, would you have made this decision? That's really what we're saying when we say consent. You're using.
I know, but how do you tell the rape victim it was your fault a little bit?
Abdicating honesty.
How does
very easily. We say
emotional-
things like, hey, there are things that we can do in life to try to like avoid risky situations, and these are the ways we take care of ourselves. Like we can say that whole statement without ever saying it's a little bit your fault you got raped.
I think it's more. I think it's better form to bite the bullet there, because if you say it the way you're saying it, I think a rape victim will hear that and say, "Wait, are you just saying it's my fault?" And I think at some point you have to just stand for that and say yes.
The reason why it gets hard to say, this is turning into a conversation about ethics. The reason why it's hard to say that like it's your fault is because there's another moral agent on the other side of that transaction. There is another like person.
We've already condemned the rapist. That's
yeah,
the
but when we say that like
victim,
it's your fault or something, we're kind of sort of removing the agency from the rapist, and then we're
to some degree. But that's true.
Not really, and
I think it is. I think it is absolutely true that in the vast majority of rapes, which I believe are relationship rapes and date rapes between people who know each other, it is not as simple as 100% or 99% culpability on the aggressor and 0 to 1% culpability on the victim. I think it is much more complicated than that.
I agree.
A lot of moving parts that I think that in order to politically process that is very simple. You just say, oh, it's the rapist's fault and you did nothing wrong. Done. But that leaves the victims with our public dialogue about it. And this is why I made the video, is that our dialogue about it does not have any room for mixed feelings or confusion in victims of rape, or even for talking about rape. And it removes people's inability to even know when they're being raped.
Sure,
because they might think like, every time you do like this.
Yeah, every time you start talking, I agree with every single thing you're saying. I just disagree that we have to relabel the words like this to say these things. Because you were just able to talk all of that without saying like, I need to be able to say it was your fault you got raped a little bit. Like there was like a million other ways to make that statement.
I think that the anger that a rape victim will feel at being told, like, you know what, I have a different framework, that, you know, that whole thing of like, nothing's your fault and you didn't do anything wrong, and you just have to take your shame and your guilt and just stuff it. I think that there's there's going to be a burst of rage.
Well, what
when
is
you
the shame?
tell them,
sorry, go ahead.
I think there's going to be a burst of rage when you tell them, like, actually I have a different framework, and then you go into kind of cleaner, hyper intellectual language to present the new framework, they're going to bring it back to the emotional place. They're going to say, are you saying this is my fault? I think it's better to just head it off and say, I'm saying that to some degree it's your fault. That doesn't mean you weren't raped.
Where do you think all the anger and everything from being raped or whatever comes from? Where do you think a lot of that comes from?
The shame or the anger at the rapist? I think there's two. I think you're angry at the rapist. Mm-hmm. You're angry at yourself. You're angry at society. You're angry at your stupid friends downstairs who didn't notice you got taken upstairs. Mm-hmm. You're angry at your parents for not teaching you how to defend yourself. You're angry at your alcoholic father and alcoholic grandfather for passing down this alcoholism gene to you. Like, there's a million things
there are, but I think
about.
One of the big angers that come about from being raped is that you feel like it was your fault. I think that's one of the huge parts of being raped, where it's like,
I think we're gaslighting people by telling them that it's not.
But it's not necessarily their fault. Like, there's a huge difference between saying, like, there are steps you can take to mitigate a bad outcome versus this bad outcome is your fault. Like, if
it's not.
Or go ahead.
If someone hates themselves for allowing themselves to get raped, it's not validating to that feeling if you say there are steps you can take to mitigate a bad outcome.
It's not validating to say, well, actually, it is your fault. So, like, go ahead.
Of course it is. To say, well, of course you hate yourself. You let yourself get raped.
I don't think
that's
so.
very validating.
Well,
what do you mean by valid? When I say validating, I don't mean validating like it's going to make them feel good. I mean validating like it will give them space and acknowledgement that they can explore their feeling, that their feeling is real, and that it matters, and that they're having it for a reason. That it's not just a delusion of victimhood. It's not just that the evil perpetrator has convinced you it's your fault. It's that we need to redefine rape and fault so that rape includes your agency. So that you can make sense of why you feel so bad about yourself.
We're not going to agree on this, but I understand everything you're saying. I think the reason why we're not going to agree on this is just because, like, the type of language that you're advocating for, socially speaking, we're so far away from any part of this being true.
Okay, so partly you think that people aren't sophisticated enough to see it the way that I do,
or at the very least, like, we're not there.
And the way that you do.
Sure. Like that, I view the world that way with how you're saying. Anytime something bad happens to me, I view it through the lens of I fucked up, I shouldn't have trusted somebody, or I need to do something.
You overly view the world.
Sure, I view it 100%, but not everybody does, and the emotional needs of other people are vastly different than mine. And I'm positive that if I were to talk to somebody that had experienced sexual assault, and I'm like, listen, it's okay to feel bad. Yeah, it was kind of your fault. Most people would have a dramatically negative reaction.
Look, I'm not advocating that delivery or timing that you just did in your example. I'm advocating for, and if somebody's not ready to hear that, then I wouldn't say that to them. Certainly, I'm not saying we should. I'm not talking about like when someone's telling me about.
Well, yeah, Mr. Girl's definitely not saying that, like, you made the decision to have this happen to you. That's definitely not what he's saying. He's saying that basically that there's a lot of victims that do understand that I didn't make the decisions that would have prevented it, and that makes them feel bad. And when we just don't talk about it, it's not very helpful to them. I think that's a better way to put it.
Their rape, I don't talk to them the way I'm talking on a stream.
Sure.
Unless they're telling me about their rape on a stream, but not the way I'm talking right now. But I'm saying the message of, I mean, or like in practice, maybe even just not saying anything. Just, I think that the idea it's not your fault is. If the thing the person is wrestling with is a feeling that it is their fault, is invalidating. I don't like that message.
Okay, I understand what you're saying. I understand you completely. I completely totally disagree. But I understand what you're. I understand
You
what you're saying.
disagree about the practicality of it.
I think that you need to accept that it wasn't your fault. I think it's a really important part of having somebody else do something horrible to you. I don't think that accepting that it was partly your fault makes you feel better. I think that what helps get you over it is that, like, okay, yeah, I did make some mistakes, but like it wasn't my fault that another moral agent chose to do something horrible to me. That's not on me. That's not. I shouldn't feel like a worse person just because I didn't take the proper steps to evade a rape. That shouldn't be the case. That's what
I don't think you should feel like a worse person just because you made a mistake. That's not. I think you're adding some of that moralizing in there that I.
Well, this is emotionally how everybody is going. That's how 100% of rape victims will take it. That, like,
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not true. I don't think that's true. I don't.
Okay.
I don't agree with you.
All right. Well, I mean, we can agree to disagree. I don't know how relevant this is to the other part of the conversation, but.
I want to have the last word, but then you're going to want to have the last word.
You can.
So
I'll
maybe
give
we
you the
should-
last word. Go for it.
Well, I'm the guest. I think that.
Well, I guess on your stream, actually.
Oh, that's true.
So careful with
true.
that one. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I'm the host.
Yeah.
I think sometimes when you think I'm being contrarian or edgy, I'm trying to fill a void. And if I see, so like if I were in a culture or even in a mini culture, if I were like in a like a, I was gonna say a frat house, but I feel like we are unfair to frat houses.
They're not the rape factors we make them out to be, right?
Right, probably not.
Okay.
So
Probably
let's say an imaginary, whatever, some rapey group of friends.
Okay.
Okay. And someone they've raped someone claims that they got raped, and they tell me the story, and it sounds like she was raped, and all in the circle of guys are saying like, well, she wanted it, she said blah 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 blah. I'm not gonna say, well, to some degree she did want it, guys. Like that's like I'm gonna say like, well, it sounds like you actually did rape her, and like I'm not saying I'm gonna call the cops on you, but I'm saying if the cops come talk to me and they ask me what happened, I'm gonna tell them what you just told me. And I honestly think you might be in some legal trouble. I think you're in some moral trouble. I don't think what you did was right. I don't think this means you're like an evil, horrible person, but it sounds like you raped her, man.
Okay.
And I would say that because that would be the thing that's missing. Like I'm not gonna say. I would feel like that's the thing that would need to be said. And if we were in a broader culture, and to some extent we are, where women get raped and then people blame them and say it's their fault, and I understand the pushback message. I think in the space that we're in, on Twitch and like left-leaning, I'm not trying to say this should be the only prevailing view. I'm saying I think this is an important piece that is often missing from consent culture. Because when I say consent is complicated, I'm saying the way we teach consent is a little oversimplified, and I think it's crushing some important nuances.
Sure. Yeah.
Need.
So we keep circling around this. I can give you the last word if you want. So what will happen is I'll say, I disagree with how you use word X. And you'll say, okay, but the reason why I misuse word X is because all of these reasons. And I agree with all
I don't think I
of...
said I misused it, but go on.
Or no, you'll say, I understand why you think I'm misusing word X, but the reason why I'm using it in a different way is because I'm trying to get through all of these other messages. And then you explain all those other messages. And I agree with all of them. I actually do. I think a lot of the way we talk about this is bad. I just don't think we need to use the word in that particular way. And then you'll say, okay, sure, but... And then you'll go on and explain all the things that I agree with. And I'll say, like, okay, I agree with all those things. I just don't think we need to use the word right. So, yeah, I agree with everything you're saying. We just disagree on the method, I guess.
Okay, that's fair. Okay, so that was like the definition section. Is that the only section, though?
Maybe. Is it? You tell me. Have you ever heard, this is so random. Somebody in my chat talked about it, not stuck in my head. Just a real quick, not related to anything. Have you ever heard the song I Wanna Be Ninja?
No.
Oh,
Okay, never mind. It's just stuck in my head. It's totally not related
really
to this. I shouldn't even
funny.
ask that question. Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
that's really funny.
Practice.
Yes.
I think that's where this is going, right?
Practice. Oh, in practice, yes.
Yeah, because we disagree about the practice of talking about this. That's where our disagreement is there. We
Like
think
having
about it
these
pretty
messages publicly or whatever.
Yeah, we think about it pretty similarly, but we talk about it differently, and that's kind of our disagreement. Where I'm like, we should say this, and you're like, no, people aren't going to understand. Like, you're like, I get it, but most people won't, and it's not helpful.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Okay. In practice, you said something. You said something that was interesting, and I think goes kind of along what we're saying.
Okay.
In the same stream where you were we were like reacting to me talking about this with that feminist. You said some people like Mr. Girl because he is very forward and willing to break some social norms. And if you can tell when it's okay to break a social norm, it can be charming. And you gave the example of being on a date with a woman and saying like, oh, so is that why you got your boobs out? And it's transgressive. It could be sexual harassment, but if you...
It is weird. I know I said this on one of these streams going over this too, but like Destiny worked harder than I've ever seen him work to maintain a friendship when he was trying to maintain the friendship with Mr. Girl. Most people didn't get anywhere near this level of like forthcomingness and like charitability throughout the whole thing. It seemed like this was one of the least willing he's ever been to burn a bridge, which makes it a lot more sad.
If you're empathetic enough and you're attuned to her enough, then the fact that it would be sexual harassment if it were said at the wrong place and time actually becomes charming because she likes that you knew that she would be okay with it.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Okay, so and then you kind of backpedaled and you're like, hey, don't try to go out.
Yeah, but it's hard. You can't just write down. That's not so critical of so much dating advice because you can't like read something and just like copy what's on the text. There's a lot of body language and feeling. It's
that's
really
body language. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying the same thing for consent, where if you are doing like what I did, so date from Tinder,
raping them. I'm sorry.
Raping women. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
If you're on a date from Tinder and she says I'm not ready, but she's
that's what really pisses me off too, is that Destiny was so comfortable with the idea that this was clearly not rape that he can joke about it, and then when I confronted him about it, him changing his stance overnight, he's like, well, no, actually there's like a lot of no, he heard this, he evaluated it, and he fully understood this was clearly not like rape. That just makes me mad.
On top of you, physiologically feels ready and seems ready and is just holding herself on top of you and you're at the entrance and nothing else is happening and she's just staring at you for 5 seconds, giving you the look of all looks, and then you push her down. I would say that is a similarly advanced maneuver that unless you are very confident in your ability to read people, nonverbal communication, and like we had gotten to know each other for a few hours and I kind of did have a sense of like how she thought and how she felt and blah blah blah. So I'm not, when I say practice, I don't mean like go do that.
Although, can you imagine if Mr. Girl was saying all this like in a courtroom? It would sound really, really, really bad. Well, he did talk for a couple hours. I think I knew what she wanted.
I don't, and I'm not even saying I should have done it. It's more just like an interesting story because it's technically a rape, even though I don't think I raped her, and I don't think she thought I raped her. And it's kind of similar to your story.
I think a lot of stories sound a lot different if you imagine somebody saying it to a judge, though.
Where commenting on a woman's breasts on your first or second date is kind of sexual harassment, but you knew that it wouldn't be received that way, or you guessed. And from all, outward signs, it wasn't received that way.
Yeah, so the difference, I would say, there's two huge problems. So first of all, I would draw a distinction between the other thing and that I'm okay violating some boundaries because they're not that big of a deal. Like, if I make a joke that makes you uncomfortable, whatever, I live and I learn. But if I fuck you and you're not ready for me to fuck you, I'm not as willing to roll the dice on that one. So I would be hesitant to compare those two. They're similar-ish in how you approach them, but I think some boundaries are okay to break, and some boundaries I think I wouldn't test. I would want to be sure before breaking them. So like, like I might tell an edgy joke about somebody, or I might tell an edgy joke around somebody without 100% knowing okay with it, but I wouldn't joke about like their parents being dead without 1,000,000% knowing first that like this is something they joke about. There's a difference in degree of severity there. Yeah. Go ahead.
I think there's some calculus there of I don't think you're okay with commenting on a woman's breasts. Like, you were on a date with her, first of all. Like, I don't think you would do that to a cashier at the supermarket.
Absolutely not. Almost.
Yeah, Destiny, he said, yeah, Destiny 180 on his take on the Mr. Girl story. It seems like he's happy to say whatever when the gloves come off. Yeah, that's what made me mad, because I always seen him as, like, I always thought of him as somebody having, like, a lot of integrity, that, like, even when bridges are burned, like, he's not gonna, like, turn around and then reframe everything that had happened into a totally different thing than it was. And so, I guess it's weird because, like, I had already heard him say it, obviously, when I talked to him about it, but then actually hearing him, like, stand his ground against me pushing back against it, it just felt so weird. I think there's a part of me that's just like, there's just something about this, like, this, he can't actually think this. And when I talked to him, I'm like, okay, there's no way you actually think this now. It's so weird that you're saying it. Because I feel like he could have burned the bridge with Mr. Girl, and, like, everybody that liked Destiny would still have liked him just as much if he had just said, like, yeah, I don't think that he's a rapist, but I think that he's doing, he's, like, looking into me in this way, and he's talking to people, like, everybody that was already convinced that Mr. Girl's in the wrong, that was on his side anyway, so, like, there was really no extra utility gained by doing that, so it just felt so weird to me.
Almost for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's.
And I'll add too that I think that when I talked to him about it, that was the least honest I've ever felt like I've seen Destiny talk about anything. It really, it still bothers me. Not because, like, it was me that it happened, just like the whole shit of it. It was just it just feels fucked up.
Quite true that you're like, well, you know, if I sexually harass somebody, I live and I learn, but if I rape somebody, that's really bad. I think you probably think both are bad. I think you're more referring to a calculus of how bad would it be if I was wrong, and how wrong would I be if I was wrong. And then I do think you're reading the person and getting a gauge of their sense of humor and their attraction to you and their awareness.
I mean, I don't think the only path to power is to lie about your true beliefs. You could just be stupid and never have had an original thought in your life.
Awareness of how they're presenting themselves and everything else that's going into that.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't believe there is a super fundamental difference. I agree that it's much more important.
Yeah, I think you're restating what I just said with more words, right? There's going to be some advanced calculation that's going on. Like,
Oh shit, never mind. I do agree with you, because if that's the case, then you're just going to be a puppet for somebody else.
Well, no, you said it was fundamentally different. And so I gave the supermarket example to show you that that's not true. You said, if I accidentally comment on someone's boobs and they're not okay with it, I live and I learn. That's not true. You're only saying that because you were on a date and you knew that the overstep would not be that much of an overstep because you were already 90% of the way there. You just
okay, sure.
You were 100.
So I'd say instead of saying
I'm just restating what you're saying with more words.
Instead of saying it's
restating it with more correct words.
Sure. Instead of saying that it's fundamentally different, I would say that instead of saying it's fundamentally different, I would say that there's a line that I will draw based on, there's a calculation that I'll do to see if this is a worthwhile thing or not. but there's going to be like a lot of hard stops here. The only reason why I don't want to just say that it's all the same, although I guess I can, is because it seems like when we do that, all of a sudden we're like saying like, oh, well, now you can do, well, okay, so you agree that sometimes some things are good and sometimes some things are bad, so like let's try and fuck a few people and see if it's rape or not, right? That's what I'm trying to avoid. But there is, yeah, I guess, yeah. So I guess like I would never want to accidentally rape a stranger, but I'll roll the dice on like accidentally raping a partner. So like fucking, so like if I was with a first time date and they were asleep, I would never just start fucking them, because that would be fucked up. But if it's like my wife of like 3 years, and you know she doesn't explicitly say like fuck me when I wake up, but like I wake her up and I start fucking her, like I'll risk that, because if it's not okay, like there's very little cost there. She'll just be like, oh, I'm not in the mood right now or something. I'm like, oh, okay, never mind, and I'll stop. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So so maybe there's not a fundamental disagreement. Maybe but there is like, there are hard lines for how far I'd be willing to go with some things that make them vastly different. Or there's hard lines. There's hard lines. Yeah.
But they're drawn on a spectrum by you. So I think that like anytime you like I've gotten into arguments about this with people who say, even before I kiss my partner, I ask them every time.
That's cringe. Yeah, nobody should do that.
That's actually insane. I'm like super like big on consent. I think I don't think I am more consent driven than even like what I advocate for. Like pretty close, I would say pretty close to what I advocated for, like the authentic consent model when I argued with Brianna Wu about it. But I'd say I usually go even a little bit further than that. I just don't think everybody has to be as extreme as me. But that's too far. That's crazy.
Right. I'm yeah. If Shaylin comes up behind me and sticks her finger in my butt, like I'm not. It's right. That's just part of relationships, is being more transgressive of boundaries, and like that's kind of fun. And then sometimes it doesn't work out, and you're like, hey, actually, don't do that. But then
I would say it's not being less transgressive of boundaries. Now I'll correct your imprecise words. I would say that it's you have a better understanding of where the boundaries are, because there are probably still some boundaries that you have that just because she's your fucking girlfriend doesn't makes it okay for them to, like, do you know what sounding is?
Yeah, and that's a boundary.
Yeah, my guess would be that
a hard limit.
Whether it's your girlfriend or a stranger, if somebody shoved a rod down your urethra, you might even be more mad if your girlfriend broke it. You'd be like, what the fuck?
Probably, because I would assume that she would
know your boundary. Yeah. So yeah, okay.
Right.
I would punch my wife in her fucking eye if she did that to me. And I feel like nobody would blame me.
Yes, you know where the boundaries are, so you can go closer to them. Sure. If you know the person better.
Yeah, because you know where
Okay, so when someone states a boundary about sex, that's not their actual boundary. They have I guess.
Wait. I'm going to define like 20 fucking things. When they state a boundary about sex, that's not their actual boundary. But what we really mean to say is a stated boundary about sex. There is no one boundary. My boundary about sex with my wife is way different than the boundary of sex with my parents, which is way different than the boundary of sex with a person, right? They're all different boundaries, right?
That's odd. I would say every boundary is even within one moment is a spectrum. Even so, if you're saying yes to something. But it could be a soft yes, it could be a definitely, it could be maybe, it could be I have mixed feelings. And if you say no to something, it might not actually mean no, like in the case of the Tinder woman I may or may not have sexually assaulted, or maybe it was a no and I raped her. Like she said yes and no at the same time was my perception, and then after that it was all yes. So even with your hard limits, I feel like,
I guess just want to take a second. We're mostly on YouTube tonight. If you could like the stream, I'd super appreciate it. It's free. I don't ask you to give me money. You just want to click the button. That'd be super cool of you. That's it.
Part of the point of my video is just because someone says yes, that doesn't mean there's no
Thank
rape.
you.
Yeah, I agree with that 1,000,000%, which is why I don't like the idea of people saying they need to like verbally check in all the time, because you're missing a lot of what's going on during a sexual interaction. It's not just about verbally checking in. There's more that goes into that to make sure the other person is okay.
Yes, but you're saying that for safety's sake, you give a verbal no much more weight than
a verbal no is a
yes.
big, because my general feeling is that verbally, to give a verbal no, my
appreciate you,
assumptions about people is that people are generally non-confrontational. That's the default for almost every person. Confrontation is very difficult for most people. So if somebody's actually they're going to go far enough to give me a verbal no, that took a lot for them to do. So I'm going to, even if they're playing games or whatever, they don't know or whatever, I'm just going to respect that. Cause like, okay, well, fuck, like maybe. Yeah. And then I'll either wait or we'll chill or we'll figure something out later, I guess. Because it seems like that's a hard boundary or that's a hard hurdle to overcome. And if they're willing to overcome
it's also the only legal.
I don't care about legal.
Really,
We're boring. That's boring. We're not talking about legal shit right now.
Well, you care in the moment.
No, I don't. It's not what I think about.
You're saying you have no awareness or thought about the fact that if someone says stop and you don't stop, you could go to jail for like 20 years?
No, I've never thought about that before, no. But we might just engage with it a little bit differently.
Well, even if you're thinking about it, you're aware that men with guns can come to your house and put you in a cell for 20 years. If somebody,
I'm not trying to high road you morally or anything, but I never think about that. No, I've never. Like,
I'm not saying you think about it. I'm saying you are aware of this fact.
Yeah, but not during the moment. It's not. I would never.
I'm not saying you're thinking about it during the moment. I'm saying you.
Are you asking me if I know that people go to jail for raping people? I know that. Yes.
Okay.
I do know that.
You're claiming that this has no effect on your behavior.
Exactly. Not on the heat of the moment. I'm never thinking like, well, legally, what can I get in trouble for? How?
I feel like Destiny is like might maybe be pretending to be a bit more autistic than he actually is here. He's just saying that like this is the kind of thing that like you can't not have affect your you can't have it not affect you when it's always going to be in the back of your mind.
How much can I rape this person before there's trouble? Is there evidence? Are they recording video? Like, I can't come inside her because I don't want to do a rape kit. Like, I need to slow down her, trip to the police station. Like, I've never thought about it from a legal perspective ever. No.
Are you implying that I think about it the way you just described?
I never said that. I never. Now you've put that in people's minds.
So you're assuming we both don't think about. You're saying we both don't think those thoughts, but you're just letting me know that especially you don't think.
Especially me, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know what you think. That's up for you to spell out here, but.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm going to do that.
That's good. You don't need to.
Yeah. So, I guess I think every sex act is a dice roll to some degree.
Okay.
And that
we're at some point we're gonna have to have a.
And that you just have to draw your own.
Because it feels like you do this thing where everything is. All of the spectrums are everywhere, but maybe instead of just saying that, maybe we should pass all of that and let's just get to the hard lines, because it feels like there's so like if I say
that's a good question. I feel like I don't know. I don't think that Destiny's really in a mode of like feeling like he lost a debate here. I don't think that I feel like Destiny's like in the lightest sense possible debating Mr. Girl about this. I think he's just sort of like investigating how Mr. Girl thinks about things so far. So I think that this is more like that internal sense of like this would feel really weird to say, so I'm not going to say it. I don't think that this one is like for the audience, if that helps with your reframing of like the question.
Like some things are good and some things are bad. It sounds like your answer would be like, well, actually, everything has some element of goodness in it, and everything has some element of badness in it. It's all on a spectrum. And then it's like, okay, well, let's just talk about. Yeah, well, then let's just talk about the lines. I think it's more interesting.
Unless you're talking about Terminator sequels, yeah.
What do you mean? You like Terminator 2?
Some Terminator sequels. I like Terminator 2.
Okay.
I like Terminator 1 more. I'm not trying to say that.
Okay.
But I like Terminator 2.
Do you like Alien 1 or Aliens more?
I think I like Aliens more, but I think Alien is a superior film.
Oh, okay.
If I'm being honest, at the end of the day, Alien is a better movie.
Okay. I've seen
but if I had to be
your work, so that's exactly the type of answer I'd expect you to give. All right. Your favorite director is probably Japanese or something, right? Yeah, okay.
James Cameron.
Oh, okay. Well, nice job.
So Aliens, like that's what I'm saying. I don't think James Cameron's the best director.
Okay. But you like Terminator 1 more than Terminator 2, even though
he directed Terminator 1.
Am I crazy?
and Terminator 2. He
Oh.
directed both.
I thought Cameron just did 2. Okay.
No, he did Piranha 2,
Okay.
but sort of, not really.
What? Well, now here's a question though. Okay. Because have you?
Well, like even the title is Destiny Debates, but like this isn't how Destiny debates, right? So like this, they are debating, but this isn't like Destiny's not in debate mode at all.
Heard of like 6 degrees of separation?
Yeah.
Do you think that because we all know people and we know somebody that knows somebody and we're all influenced by other people, do you think it's fair to say that James Cameron directed every film, but it's kind of like on a sliding scale of how much he directed it?
No, I think you could say he has influenced
Yeah.
every film, definitely after Titanic, but I wouldn't say he's directed every film. No, I think that's a binary.
You think so?
that's like-
You established the binary here? Okay. I'm just looking for the non-spectrums in your life. Okay,
I think
sorry.
you knew. I think you are arguing. It's a funny joke, but I think you're actually arguing against your own self. I think that you are saying, "Oh, you always do this." I'm like, well, no, I don't always do this. I do this when we're talking about complex topics, which is why I'm here talking about it to you.
Okay.
The reason I wanted to talk about this with you is because I think it's complex. So anything that can be split into a binary, we probably won't have much to argue about.
Could you argue that it's a form of binary, that every hard stop is a form of binary? Because when we create a hard stop, we're essentially saying there's a yes and a no. Like, can you do this thing? And with respect to this, like, spectrum. So isn't that kind of a binary?
There's a binary of whether if it's penetrative sex, of whether you penetrated. That has a blurry edge for sure. I was already semi-penetrating in the story I'm telling. But it is possible to completely penetrate and completely not penetrate, for sure.
What if I just pull my foreskin forward and I put that in? Is that... Because it's not my dick yet.
That's blurry.
I'm sorry. I'm fucking with you. Okay. No, but my first point was actually serious. I'm just saying that, like...
Yeah, it's gross.
Like, maybe we should talk more about the hard boundaries, because I'm guessing for every single word that comes up in this topic, you're going to say, well, that's a spectrum, that's a spectrum. That, like, rape is a spectrum, coercion is a spectrum, power dynamics are a spectrum,
so
consent is a spectrum. Yeah.
Okay, so here, I guess here's the problem. I'm saying that's how I see all rape and all sex. They're all in a spectrum together.
I understand.
And you're saying you see it that way, or you can see it that way, but for the purpose of action, you have to make some binary choice. And for the purpose of conversation, you think it might be irresponsible to talk about it that way.
Yeah, but I just don't have,
So are we in a corner where you're saying it's too irresponsible to continue this conversation? Are you're platforming a rape apologist?
No, I think the conversation is interesting because I like to talk about the ideas that we'll just
platforming a rape apologist is definitely interesting.
Well, I don't know if you're a rape apologist, but even if you were a rape apologist, this is like one topic that I feel very confident discussing with literally anybody. So it's a fun topic for me to talk about.
Okay. Do you think it's irresponsible to talk about it?
I don't think me ever talking about this topic is irresponsible, because I think I talk about this topic very well. So no, I don't think it's irresponsible.
Do you agree that your ideas about this topic that you're espousing are more normative than mine?
When you say more normative, you mean more in alignment with what most of society thinks, or
what most of society says, at least? Yeah, what you're supposed to be saying.
I don't know, actually. I'm not sure. Well, more than you, probably. But that's
more than my position. Yours is more. Right?
More than you, probably, yeah. But I think I fall outside of the normal societal thing, because I think the society conversations are really stupid too. So.
Yes, I agree. Sure, but so I have my lens. You have your lens.
Yeah.
I invite you to look through mine, and then figure out what practical applications we might make or change based on mine, rather than keep arguing over whose we should look through. Because I feel like I know yours, and I think you know mine. I would even say that you have the same one as me, just when you talk about this, you don't look through it because you think it might be irresponsible. But would you...
I think I view this exactly the same as you do. Literally, we're having like such a meta conversation.
Would you consent to...
Mr. Girl willing to play devil's advocate and present himself as a potential predator. This is what ends him up with banning. If not directly, in the very least, this is what ends up getting people so pissed off at him that they report him enough for him to get banned. Yeah, I think I agree.
looking through my lens. And
Sure. Yeah, we
seeing-
can. I said, I think I agree with you about all of this. I just don't like the words you use. That's literally it. That's our only point of disagreement.
Well, can we just use them anyway?
Sure, go
Just
for it. Let's go. Yeah, that's
for
fine.
me?
That's why I said we just talk about the hard stops. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Wait, can I use the restroom real quick?
Yeah.
Okay, I need to.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll handle things here.
Okay. Hold on one second.
I should open your chat so I can get a.
Ooh, I didn't like the
Get a sense
Destiny
of
sound
what's
cutting
going
out
on.
there.
He's gonna go take a nap. He's gonna go take a. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's longer that Mr. Girl streamed, the less it was there. Like, I feel like people think that Mr. Girl is somebody who just like never learned his lesson, but I don't think so. I think that he always had an element of it, but it definitely. I just think all the negative shit that happened to him wore some of that down a bit, which is sad.
Let's see what Destiny's chat's doing. I do not consent. Stairs to Nate. Nice. Giga Chad. Pee poo poo poo. We don't consent. Don't look at me. Oh, I'm looking at you. Specifically. Especially. Talk to us. Okay, his chat is on his. Oh yeah. I'm sorry. I'm looking at the Twitch chat. His Twitch chat. He's got multiple chats. Type VIP Destiny in the chat. See, you're a mod. Okay, I'm trusting you. Do you think he's gonna chat with you guys while he's using the restroom? I think he's not gonna do that. I'm paying attention to my own chat. Jesus, I just wanted to see what was going on. I gotta take the temperature sometimes. I think this is my new tactic that because streamers are so often like after.
Corporate wants you to find the difference between Mr. Girl and this convicted rapist language about consent. It's the same picture.
After the stream, you find out they were just talking to their chat the whole time and didn't fucking matter what you said. So from now on, I don't feel this way about Destiny, but from now on, I'm going to have their chat.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I hope so too. The weird thing is that Mr. Girl's removed himself from like online poll pretty much completely. I would say that like the people that are left in it that he's willing to engage with are so far and few between, and it's mostly like the experts and stuff that he has on, but it's the people in Twitch poll that kind of speak this language that allows him to have these conversations, and like the way that Mr. Girl talks is not very well suited for people that have like well-established careers and stuff. So like people that stream talking to Mr. Girl isn't that damning. People that get really upset with you for talking to Mr. Girl, like it's not that bad because you can always point to like, well, that guy talked to this person and like that person was pretty bad, but I still talked to that guy. But if it's like somebody who has like a fairly substantial career like in the mainstream, I think that they're a lot easier to spook off. So I have a hard time imagining that he'll be returning to that role more, or maybe he will, but I think it would help a lot if people didn't just bail. No, that's the thing. Mr. Girl absolutely did find his niche, and his niche was talking to people on Twitch poll. He was great at it. Well, and making like his solo stuff that he does. That's all really good, but I mean, it's not steady. It gets far and few between. But like him doing this stuff that he's doing right now that we're watching was definitely his niche. He was so good at it, and so many people had no idea whatsoever how to deal with him, which is like a really good sign because their jobs are basically to just sit around and talk to people all day. And when he's throwing them off, it kind of shows like you definitely have something here. Like these people aren't in any way prepared for this, which I just think is like super, super impressive. But unfortunately, It just didn't pan out very well.
And my chat open, it's gonna be like fucking air traffic command. Go on Cumtown. Okay, if they invite me. I'm not gonna answer personal questions about my sex life. Look at his website chat. LOL. Let's see. You see when Destiny said this is getting weird, guys? Oh, did he say that in my chat? Man, this conversation is getting weird. No, I didn't see that. That's funny. See, I try not to get distracted from chat, especially like he talks really fast, so like I can't, there's no pauses to, but I appreciate that he said that. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Fucking book smarts. All right. I'm in the DGG chat. Book fucker. He doesn't know I live in his. Oh my god. Look at that. Look at how fast you guys are talking. I can't. It's that's the other thing. Like trying to keep tabs on this shit. It's like it's like Professor X in the room where like all the thoughts invade his brain and make him cry and make him like really sad. This is crazy.
And make him cry.
Holy shit. Yo, you muted. Somebody got muted due to spam detection. What does it matter? It's an unending flood of wait, what's it called? Cerebro. Yeah. All right, yeah. Okay, back to my chat. Did you watch Matrix 4? Yeah, I watched Matrix 4. I was shocked. I saw the Red Letter Media review where they mentioned that it was the most expensive of all the Matrix movies, which I find shocking. It just felt like the vision wasn't there. I don't know what happened. Because all the other Matrix movies have shots that stick in your mind forever. Like Trinity seeing the sun for the first time, or the bus is crashing, or the cake orgasm. We can't forget the cake orgasm. The 2 and 3. 1 obviously has all the ones that we all know. And then the only things I remember in Matrix 4 are the things I remember because I was so shocked that they didn't look like fucking. I feel like the Wachowski.
I agree. He was really good at it, but the fact that he ended up where he says, maybe this isn't for him. We'll see. This is hilarious. Pre-Mr. Grill DGG war. He's so good at this. I don't think that Mr. Grill doesn't think that this is for him. I think that there's like a small, like, I don't know how much of a portion it is, to be honest. I think some of that is something he has to tell himself because he knows that he can't, he's stopped himself. He said, I'm not going to do it anymore. And if you're going to tell yourself, I'm not going to do something anymore, and you mean it, then I think it's almost always going to follow that you'd say, like, well, that wasn't really for me anyway. So I think that's part of it. And I think the other thing is just that I don't, to a pretty large degree, I don't think that he could. The Destiny report was just like total suicide of being able to have like anything in this space. Like even if you don't like Destiny, and you make content in this space, like if you go after him, or like you would know that like you can't really go after him that hard and not expect to suffer like massive loss in audience.
Or Lana Wachowski.
Like, people that don't like Destiny in the space still respect Destiny, and they don't go out of, like, if you're smaller than him, you're not going to just go after him.
I assume
willy-nilly.
As half of them, they're so visionary.
Not that I think Mr. Gold did it willy-nilly.
It seems from watching all of their movies,
you just can't get away with it.
Actually, there's a couple I haven't seen, but all the ones I've seen, it seems like coming up with unforgettable images is like something they really specialize in, more than they specialize in coming up with like a plot. So I don't understand that. And then yeah, like the meta shit, it was funny, but I wasn't a big fan. Oh shit, he's back. He's back.
What are you complaining about?
Matrix 4.
Wait, what for?
The Matrix.
Oh. Oh, did you watch it? Did you like it?
I watched it. I didn't like it.
Wow.
I was shocked on Red Letter Media said that it was the most expensive of all the Matrix movies, that it had a budget of like $200 million, which was the only things I was willing to forgive were because I thought it was like low budget. But finding that out, I was like, okay, I don't understand what happened here.
Wait, okay, this is a really important question. This might be a deal breaker. Okay.
Okay.
Big one. How'd you feel about Dune?
Dune felt like a episode of a TV show. Like, that didn't feel like a movie. It just felt like a continuous string of events that then just stopped because they were like, well, movies are about 2.5 hours long, and that's where we are, so this movie's over. See you in a few years.
Mr. Girl willing to martyr himself, at least in terms of a streamer career. Yeah. It's kind of crazy to me. The kinds of concessions that he makes that hurts his ability to stream and do it like he did. Like, if you believe in the kind of message you're putting out there and you believe that you're doing the right thing, it seems like some things aren't as important as that. Yeah, the no super chats is dog. That killed me. I was like, oh, you're basically giving yourself every reason in the world now to just stop. And that fucking sucks. That felt like him turning off super chats is like when somebody goes out and cheats on their significant other. So that way, instead of just saying like, hey, I want to break up with you, they can be like, hey, I got to tell you something. And then they'd be like, I cheated on you. So now like the breaking up part is going to be way easier for them. Because like it's already on the other person's mind that like, hey, maybe we're gonna break up, and now you can just sort of like push it into that direction. That's what the no super chats felt like to me. It was like, but instead of betraying the other person, he was betraying himself. So that way, he can just go, hey, I'm not making enough money off of this. I gotta put it on the back burner. Yeah. So, like, once the super chats go away and, like, the less money comes in, it's like, all right, well, maybe now I have to go out and get a job, which means I won't have as much time for streaming anyways. It feels like the kind of thing that would happen if you know that you aren't going to keep streaming as much, to help you push yourself into, like, feeling like, oh, this is just inevitable. I don't really have a choice. And the worst part about that is that everyone, like, unanimously, everybody who supports him was like, dude, stop, no, do not do that. Don't do that. You're still accepting money on Patreon and stuff. Not a single person that sent him super chats wouldn't have been fine saying, like, you just read them at the end. Let us send super chats. It's not always just for the person doing it. It's also for people in the chat to see our chat. We want to make sure that ours is highlighted so that you can see it when, like, you're just reading chat. Because a lot of people who watch on mrgirl.tv are chatting with each other. It can be like a way to, like, big dick somebody in the chat that you're arguing with or something. It just... Nobody liked that he did that. And I can't see it as just what he described it as. But he also said that he felt like super chats were developing an unhealthy relationship between the audience and himself. He didn't say it was to help him move away from streaming. Yeah, I feel like that's like the subconscious reason. Correct. I think that I feel like he might have some indication that that's maybe why he did that, and I think it might be confusing. Because I've just seen a lot of people do things like this to help them do something they needed to do, or they felt like they needed to do at least. but he's always felt like the financial part of streaming was like that, but he never pulled the trigger until after the Destiny War had been gone or had been over for a while, and things were hitting a lower point. And like I said, I get what you're saying there, in that part. So, like, just leaving them all to the end could have fixed that a lot. Well, he did develop a really adversarial relationship with the audience in these kinds of ways, like saying no super chats, and saying like, "Hey, I'm not going to stream," like just even like I'm not going to stream as much, things like that. Not even getting himself banned on Twitter. Like there's a lot of things that as a viewer you don't want to see happen, but in terms of actually how he treated his audience, he did a lot better. Like as time went on, he would like make fun of the audience less, and he'd actually say like, "I love my audience." Yeah, no DMs, but that's actually I think that's a pretty good one. When you like, I feel like there's some streamers that can do that just fine, but Mr. Girl blew up at a rate that's like so fast that like there's no audience members that you could have had like interactions with over time. Like I think that Destiny could have a group of people that he's like that have been watching him since like Justin TV or whatever, where it's totally like any of like these weird parasocial ideas or like ideas about like there being potential abuse and stuff from having DMs just kind of goes out the window. Like if they were watching you when you had 5 viewers, you can take DMs from them when you have 1 million viewers, and you're not putting them in any kind of like weird position. If anything, these are the people that you would really want to DM you because I feel like they're like the better, like, they're like your watchdog on you. Like if you're fucking something up or you're doing something weird or something, these are going to be the people that you can trust the most to talk to you about that. And like, you've most certainly had like more private conversations with them when you're streaming. If you really have like, single digits viewers and views and stuff, and these people talk to you regularly, like it's pretty close to DMing anyway. But yeah, Mr. Girl began to stick up for his audience more as time went on and things like that. But then he would do things that just like none of us wanted, which it's really weird. Just when he started to show the audience love, he just did all the things that we didn't want him to do. And like I said before, I really wish he didn't do the Destiny report. I would have much preferred having him have like a couple of streams with Anna, and talk to her to try to get her side, or just have the conversation that he did with Anna and then talk about that on like a solo stream or something like that. The report was just too much. I selfishly want that. I think that since he thought he had to do it, he had to do it. I get it. I understand being compelled by like your moral ideas to where it's like you don't even have a choice. That's how I approach like every situation. If there's like any kind of like morality that would come into play, I'm strict deontologist. If it's right, it's right. If it's wrong, it's wrong. If I must do something, then I must do it. But selfishly, I'm fucking pissed about the Destiny report because it ruined like it's like my favorite TV show got canceled, and it fucking sucks.
So I didn't
like the number of people who abused Mr. Girl on Reddit was probably smallish. Yeah, and I think that the level of abuse that you can suffer on Reddit is relatively small. In most cases, like it would have to be pretty extreme. But the video that I have after this one that the guy sent me to watch in order is, and I didn't ask for him to do this either. And I know he didn't do it to like, he just has the intentions of having me watch these to get like the idea of where the rift was. But the one that comes on after this is me talking to Destiny with Benny about the whole Reddit thing. Dude, I DM'd Destiny when I talked to him right after the bridge burning thing, and I didn't even want to say that Mr. Girl was doxxed yet. I didn't know how many people knew or whatever, and I was just like, bad stuff's happening, and he's like, well, what kind of bad stuff? I was like, hang on a minute, and I DM'd it to him, and he was like, yeah, I don't give a fuck, and I was like, oh, it in that moment, it shifted how I think of Destiny. It was I can never look at Destiny the same way again after finding out that he was okay with his audience doxing. From the way that he's presented himself, always, and the way that he's talked about his ideas, it should not ever matter to him who the target of doxing is if it's happening from his community. The fact that they are doing it is the thing that makes it wrong. He has members in his audience that will go, okay, you did something that I don't like, and on behalf of Destiny, I'm going to take it upon myself to dox this person. And like in the most malicious ways, like not just like posting the address or whatever, but like posting pictures from the inside and outside of his home to like confirm it so you can like really get a good look at it. That shit was fucked up. It was really, really bad. And it's not even just lack of empathy. Like, I expect Destiny to lack empathy when he's mad. Like, full stop. I don't think I wouldn't even hold it against him. I think sometimes it can be really hard to have empathy when you're angry. I would think it's better if you do, but I get it if you don't. Not everybody can do that. It's just a limitation some people have. But to lose the kind of integrity that has made you respected, when you're mad, that's crazy. And it felt particularly weird because it happened when I talked to him. So I think for a while I didn't really know how to suss out that feeling because I didn't know if it was like, well, this obviously wasn't a pleasant conversation. So maybe I just feel weird because of that. But like, no, that was a huge, huge part of it. Is just that he didn't care about the doxing, and Destiny was like super high on my list of people that I respected, like that I could think of. Because he's always presented this kind of like, not just integrity too, but like this sort of separation from like my emotions, from like determining what's like right and wrong and all that. It's something he's always projected and done a really good job of like showcasing. But in this moment, for somebody that I had a ton of empathy for, so there's definitely some personal spin to it, and just say like, no, I just don't give a shit that he got doxed. That's a hard pill to swallow. And I think that I can't be the only one. Oh, well, I know that's not true. Most people didn't know that that's what I had said to him. I wish that I had known. I don't know. I think that maybe if I didn't message it to him, he wouldn't have responded that way, because I think that would have been a terrible look for him to a much broader audience than just me. Or maybe not. I know like a lot of DGG wouldn't care, especially the ones doing it. But yeah, dude, it was fucked. It's really like fucked up.
But I really like the director, and the music was great. Acting was great. I liked every individual scene. It just didn't feel like I watched a movie afterward, and none of it stuck with me.
Oh, Dune.
Okay.
So
Well,
I look
know.
forward to the next one, but I didn't feel like super moved by it, and like. The design, everything was really cool. Like, I thought it was really well made.
Okay.
What about you?
I think similar. I thought it was really boring. Like,
Oh, okay.
there wasn't like a cohesive story for me to give a fuck about. Like, I didn't care about the family getting blown up. I didn't like. There's just. It felt a little bit. I was a little bit spoiled because I just come out. Have you seen Pig or The Green Knight?
I've seen Pig. I haven't seen The Green Knight.
I just come off watching both of those, and all of the shots
Yeah.
felt very purposeful in that movie. Whereas in Dune, not to shit on people, because I know everybody's like, the cinematography, it just, a lot of it felt like a little bit masturbatory. Like, oh, look at this
Yeah, for sure.
huge desert. Like, look at this huge green experience. It's like, okay, I guess. So I like didn't get as much of like all the people saying it looked really good. I mean, it didn't look bad. And then like, yeah, the story was just like, I just didn't give a fuck about anything.
It looked like Blade Runner. Did you see his Blade
Okay, I did see Blade Runner, but I really
Yeah.
like Blade Runner 2048 or whatever, right? Or
I liked it
2049?
too, but
Yeah.
I think that's part of why Dune didn't feel so groundbreaking. It felt like I'd already seen a lot of the same shit he was doing in Blade Runner.
Sure.
And
Blade
not that I
Runner
don't
was
like
so
it.
much better. I feel like there was so much more to grapple with, like mentally
Yeah.
in Blade Runner. Like you felt sad in
Yes.
Blade Runner.
Peace out, Elk. You too, man.
There's a scene where you feel sad that an android's android has gotten destroyed. Like, how
Yes.
weird is that? That's so, there's like,
Yes.
it's such a strange concept, right? Yeah, I don't know. I thought that was a really good movie. But, okay, where were we?
You were agreeing to go on my funhouse adventures, right?
Wait, I didn't,
On my roller coaster. I
didn't
think
some
you
woman
did.
just get convicted for being on some creepy dude's funhouse ride for too much?
Oh. Oh.
Anyway,
How do you say her first name? Ghislaine?
something like that? I don't remember.
The reaction to that on Twitter I find very annoying.
Which reaction is that?
The reaction of like cheering, like youth, months of people saying like, oh, they're distracting us from the trial with Omicron, and then why aren't they showing us the trial, and then being like, oh, I guess she got convicted of everything, so I didn't have to watch the trial and I don't give a shit anymore. But thank God she was convicted, because I thought she was. It's like it seemed like the evidence against her was overwhelming. So my experience was like, she's obviously a sex trafficker, and she's obviously going to get convicted, and then she did. And I don't understand. It ain't like fucking Derek Chauvin. Like, it just was like, seemed, or Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
The conspiracy theories annoy me.
Yeah, something, and I haven't dug on enough to responsibly comment, but it does feel a little bit stupid that like people are basically trying to say like any person that knew Epstein is 100% a child rapist. And be like, Prince Harry, child rape. Well, maybe that might not be the best example, because I think there might have been some weird things made, but like Bill Clinton, Trump, every single person that like was associated with like a fucking rapist. Like, okay, really? Like, we're gonna need, I need some evidence of it. Yeah.
These people know hundreds of thousands of people.
Yeah, and they're billionaires. That's a pretty exclusive.
They all know each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, for sure, billionaires are. It's much easier to sex traffic if you're a billionaire. I'll give you that, but that doesn't mean that they're all doing it. And just because they know someone who did, it's stupid.
Oh, Prince Andrew, not Prince Harry. I'm sorry, I fucked that up. But yeah. So that's kind of annoying. But
yeah.
Okay. Where are we at?
So yeah, you had just consented to.
Thank you.
Use my dirty language to talk about practical applications of what if every sex is a little bit rape, and what if every rape is a little bit sex?
Where do we draw the boundary?
Or how do you navigate that as a...
I think you meant every rape has some element of consent. Not all rape is a little bit sex.
individual. I think rape laws are fine where they are. I don't have any problem with that. I'm not aware of any serious flaws in how we prosecute rapes, other than they're underreported.
Sure.
So let's give some advice.
Okay.
Right? Because we've got some...
I guess I'll mute. I
less
didn't realize my mic would
experienced
pick up me crunching
folks
cereal.
Okay.
watching.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So using advice with an asterisk that we're using my worldview. How would you talk to somebody who... Well, imagine me. Okay, imagine you're giving me advice, and I have the same kind of what you say is autistic worldview, or way of expressing things or hearing things, and I'm 18, and I'm like, Steven, I'm going to college. I think I might have sex. What do you do? Like, how do I know? How do I handle? Or I'm a girl, and I'm like, how do I handle, like, boys are starting to pay attention to me more, and like, blah blah blah. I can't hide from them anymore. They're coming after me. I kind of like some of them. I don't know. Like, what's like the most nuanced, spectrumy way to like talk about that, to give advice about that through that lens, rather than just like no means no, it's enthusiastic, continuous enthusiastic consent, the kind of talking points that we hear that college campuses cover their asses with in high schools. If you were to give a more nuanced version, what would it be?
I mean, like, I think it's good that when you are engaging with a person, you should make sure they want to have sex, that they want to fuck you. I think that, like, starting from a position of, like, make sure that, because there's two ways that we can kind of approach sex. One is that we're kind of like trying to trick the other person into fucking us, and the other in that we're trying to engage with somebody in a way that they like find genuinely enjoyable.
Like trying to score.
Yeah. So like when you view sex as like something that you're trying to get from somebody rather than something that you're trying to enjoy from somebody, when you reframe it that way, I think that your entire perspective on it will change a little bit. Like when you're trying to play a game with a friend, I would hope you want that friend
If
to
they don't want to play.
You want to find a game that you both enjoy playing, right? Now,
Yeah.
there are things we could do. Like if I get you drunk enough, you'll play Mario Party with me, even though you really want to play Smash. Okay. Or I could
Play
like
either one with you.
sure. Or I could like swap the discs out, and you didn't know until
Yeah,
the last
and then I'm like,
minute.
well, I guess so. We're already playing.
Yeah, we're already playing, so might as well finish, right? Yeah. Or yeah, like there are ways that we can do it, but like in most events, we don't want to do that. We want the other person to like be having fun playing the game that we're playing, right? It feels like
You're comparing playing Mario Party to stealthing.
kind of, yeah. But yeah,
Before Mr. Girl got there, I was gonna say this is like the most evil way to say this.
yeah, I guess that's like that big perspective shift. I think kind of helps her to refocus a lot of the conversation away from, are you trying to basically mind fuck this other person into sex, or are we trying to find something that both of us are comfortable with and would enjoy doing?
When people haven't had a lot of sex, they can get nervous and be scared to do it, even if they want to, even terrified. How do you? And we both agree that just because someone says yes verbally, and just because they're physiologically aroused, that doesn't necessarily mean they actually want to. So beyond verbal check-ins, what do you think is a good way, or other kind of like empathetic or attunement tools to determine that you are on the same page as somebody sexually who's new to it?
I think that I think a lot of human fear comes from the unknown. So I think like the most important thing that you can do, a lot of the reasons why people, we'll say women, because it's generally on them, are worried is because you don't know like what's going to happen if something goes wrong, or what's going to happen if you don't like it, or what's going to happen if you change your mind. And I think that making sure that the person with you, this is like, now how you do this, I guess there's other ways you can do this, but like this is the goal, right? If I'm engaged with somebody in a sexual interaction, I want that person to feel like at any point they can be like, hey, I'm not comfortable with this. Can you get me like a glass of water? I need like a second to myself. Then I'll be like, okay, chill. And I'll like get off and do that without, there's no fight, there's no argument, there's no struggle. There, like, that's it. Like, okay, cool. Let's take it at your word and we'll do that. I think that if you can effect that in a person's mind, if you can bring that into a person's head and they genuinely feel that, I think that that's a good starting point to like engage with somebody sexually. And a lot of that like fear or worry or first time nervousness or whatever, I think comes across in that topic, that like, if I don't like this or if I'm not into this, like, I don't know what this guy's going to say if I change my blah, blah, blah. Like, I think that's where a lot of that fear or hesitation comes from.
You're almost advocating for a bit of a caretaking dynamic, at least between young men and young women, where a man is, both partners should be, we're talking about straight sex, obviously.
Sure, heterosexual, cisgender, whatever, yeah.
Yeah. White, no. So you're saying that the male should take some kind of caretaking role where both he and the woman are trying to make sure she's okay.
I think that there's going to be a person that, if there's some nervousness, there's going to be one person that wants it more than the other person, or is more aggressive than the other person. Now, generally, that's going to be the man pushing the woman. So I think that the person that's being a little bit more aggressive, I think the onus is on them to be a bit more courteous.
So you should know if you're initiating.
Basically, yeah, I think.
What about alcohol?
What about it?
How does that factor into this?
I don't like to factor in drugs on a first-time sexual encounter unless it's a very small amount of drugs, or unless we've like explicitly talked about everything first. But I almost
is that
never.
avoidable in a college setting, though?
It could be. Man, doing drugs on the first time is such a hard one. That's a really, really hard one. I think you're setting yourself up for a lot of potential disaster there.
I would assume that's the norm, but maybe that's just because I never drank, and so I.
It probably is. I mean, a lot of girls are, I don't know why, but like, well, we know we're fucking tonight. We have fucked in the past, but even when we get back to my house, like, oh, can I get like a thing of wine or whatever? Like, why? Okay, sure. That does seem to be like a habit or a thing.
That's the kind of self-coercion that I'm talking about, where if you're nervous, if you're too scared to do something or too uncomfortable to do something sober, it's like you're taking that part of yourself that doesn't want to do it, and you're like, I'm going to put you to sleep for a little bit.
A little bit.
And then if you... just a little sleepy deepy, and when you wake up, we'll see how you feel. We'll see what you think, in the morning. And then the more you drink, the more of yourself you put to sleep. And it seems like most people eventually can put so much of themselves to sleep that, like, only the sex crazed, ape is left, and then it's very easy.
You could do that, but I think there's two other slightly nicer ways to frame this. So the first way is that sometimes people are, like, get in their heads a lot, and sometimes it's nice to loosen up a little bit with alcohol.
I thought we were going to frame it the Mr. Girl way.
No. Well, I'm just saying that, like, I have to give my spiel, okay?
Okay.
I'm just saying that, like, it's nice to... Sure, you can wait. It's nice to, like, get out of your head a little bit. Now, if you want to talk about this, like, awakening the beast or sleeping your non-consensual part, like, sometimes people can get really in their head, and they know, like, intellectually, I know I want this thing, but, like, my nerves are a little bit whatever, but, like, if I drink a little bit, like, I'm okay with this, right? Now, when I say a little bit, I'm talking about, like, a glass or two maybe of wine. I'm not talking about, like, I need to slam 5 shots so that I can, like, let this guy ravage my fucking pussy, okay? There's a huge difference here, right? That's...
Slam 5 shots.
Yeah, that's one thing. And then the... yeah, well, we'll say that. There's a weird, like, physiological thing. Like, if you're a woman, sometimes, like, loosening up a little bit can have, like, a very real, actual, like, physiological benefit.
Literal loosening up.
Literal loosening up, yeah. Because if you're nervous, there's something weird that happens. This happens to men and women in different ways. If you're a woman, if you get nervous, you will clench up a little bit, and then you could, like, tear, or, like, you just can't get in, and then you get even more nervous, and it gets worse and worse, and then you start to dry up, and everything is fucked. With a guy, it's like you get nervous, you lose a little bit of rigidity in your boner, you realize you've lost some rigidity, and then it gets worse and worse, and now you've got, like, fucking ED, and you're like, I can't do anything. So, like, I think that people can use, like, drugs to relax them a little bit, and that's okay. Yeah.
But it increases the rape percentage. But by definition,
by some non-0%, sure. But if we do it responsibly, hopefully this is an arbitrarily small percent.
So what are you advocating for on the first sexual encounter? It sounds like you said no, and now you're saying you can understand it.
I said I generally avoid drugs, but if somebody wants to have, like, a couple drinks, it's not the worst thing in the world. But, like, almost all my sexual encounters, we're talking a lot before anything happens to make sure like what page we're on, basically.
Do you think college students should do that?
I do, yeah. I think it makes everything way easier, way better. It's just like, if I go to fuck somebody, I already know everything they're into, what they want to do, like, everything is so easy, and then I can just enjoy the act, and I don't have to, like...
I think drugs are fine as long as you guys understand what's up with sex.
Think so much about, like, figuring out what they're blah, 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 blah. I think that more straightforward approach is nice, but...
I find that gets easier with age. Young people, it's much more easy to have sex than it is to talk about it when you're young. Which is
I used to have this thing. I used to drink, like, regularly, I guess. If I was, like, around women, but I would, like, never ever offer them alcohol. They could have some if they asked, but it made me feel, it would just, like, it's not like I did it and then, like, felt this way, but, like, the idea of being like, do you also want to drink, always made me feel like I'd just be saying, like, hey, I'm gonna try to get you drunk. So I would never offer, but, like, they could ask.
Which is weird. I don't think that
absolutely
should be true,
yeah,
but,
for sure.
But that seems to be the case.
It could be it could be the case. I've had so many bad experiences with people that are my age. I don't want to attribute anything to fucking age anymore. But maybe as a general rule of thumb, it might be true. Yeah.
One thing I would advocate for. Okay, I hadn't had sex for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Intercourse.
Okay.
And I started dating this girl. This was a few years ago. I'm still recovering from my divorce. And I'm all better now, though.
Okay. Good to
and
hear.
we had sex, and I think it was my first time having sex in maybe like a year or two. And then afterward,
Oh shit.
I told her I felt
All right, I'm gonna
raped.
I'm gonna go for like another 2 minutes and then end it here. I wanted to start a lot sooner, but I couldn't link up with Lefty Jesus like I wanted to, because he was gonna watch this with me, and then we were gonna watch the Vosh one since he's a big VGGer. But I'll pick up tomorrow, and hopefully he's free then. If not, then I'll still finish this and then go on to the next video. I know I have to wrap before midnight, which is in 8 minutes, and I'm almost at 2 hour mark, so I'm gonna stop like right around the 2 hour mark just to hit that.
Okay.
2 hour.
And she was like,
I guess.
She was like, but you said you wanted to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I know. I'm not saying you did anything wrong. I just want to say that a part of me didn't want to, and I want to talk about it.
Okay.
Oh, I wonder how
And
that
she
went.
said, yeah, but what do you mean you feel raped? Why would you feel raped? And I was like, well, that's what I'm trying to tell you. And she said, well, I didn't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, okay, so are you saying you're not willing to talk about this? Like, I still feel it. Like, it's just a feeling. I'm not accusing you of anything. I want to talk about my feelings.
Okay.
And I feel like violated. Because I don't think I was actually ready to do that.
Okay.
And you kind of talked me into it.
Okay.
And she said, yeah, but you were about it and blah, 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 blah. And I said, you're not listening to me. And I'm angry. I'm getting angry at you.
Okay.
Okay. And this, I've had a lot of relationships die after maybe 2 or 3 weeks. When the first time I get angry at the person and I just say, I'm angry at you, a lot of people will flee.
Okay.
So I said, like, I'm angry at you. You're not listening to me. I need you to, I want you to empathize with me. You don't have to agree with me. I know you don't think you raped me.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even think you raped me. But I need you to empathize with me. And she was like, well, I can't empathize with you if I don't think I raped you, because you're saying you feel raped and that didn't happen. And I was like, you're not
man.
fucking listening to me.
Okay.
That's
If, like, I need you to listen and stop talking about what you think, and I need you to listen to what I think. And eventually she was like, I think I should go. I was like, okay, fine. And like looking at me like, I'm okay, I'm gonna go. And I'm like, fine then, fucking go. Like, I don't.
all right. I'm gonna end this here, but it'll still be safe right where I'm at. Like I said, I wanted to start a lot sooner. I just couldn't link up with Lefty, and I did want to do this with him. It's not his fault in any way. If anything, I probably should have just started and said, hey man, you can hop in if you end up being available. But it's neither here nor there. But what he's saying right there, I think that's a huge thing. Like if you're in a relationship and I've run into that where it's like I want to talk about my feelings. It's like, well, I don't agree with the thing that you want to talk about. It's like, that's fine. I'm not saying that this is a thing that 100% exists, but this is like how I feel about it, and I'd really like to talk about it. I think that not being able to talk to somebody about something, even if they don't agree that it's happening, or even if you don't agree that it's happening, is like really, really detrimental. Because you can, like, if even with what he's saying there, like, that's fine. You don't have to tell me that you don't think that you did that more than once, but you could still talk to me about it. I think that's super valuable. And I just think that most people aren't capable of having conversations like that. But if you can, I think that's a huge asset to having communication skills when it comes to relationships. As somebody who's been on that side of it, not like saying like I feel like you raped me, but just like in general, that's a very overwhelming, frustrating feeling. Just be like, okay, I get that you don't agree, but like, can we still talk about this thing? Because if they don't, then it's basically just saying like, well, fuck you. If part of dealing with it means talking to me about it, then I guess you just don't get to have any resolution. You don't get to deal with it, because I don't feel like dealing with it. It's weird because it's put into this way, which makes it like probably pretty hard to just like introspect that broader point when he's talking about telling a woman like he feels like he was raped. But if you look at it outside of that context, I think that's probably happened to most people, like trying to have that kind of conversation and not being able to. But all right, I'm gonna wrap it for tonight and probably stream for a lot longer tomorrow. I kind of rearrange my monitor situation with OBS so that way I don't have things popping up over my screen if I want to play a game while I'm listening to this and talking.